I need to get one that's higher so it's a little more flattering, but part of me is just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes this podcast is about my double chin. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, that's what
you have to create authentic content.
Yeah, cinema verita, right? It's like verisimilitude.
What did you do? Is this a texting injury?
No.
You have nursemaid's thumb?
It's, I woke up one morning and it, like, my thumb and my fingers were, like, really in pain, and then the pain in my hand went away after like a day or two. But then the one just where my thumb connects to my wrist, just that little joint, so I have to stabilize it. I'm sure part of it was texting, but what I think what it was is I used to have like a 6S Plus, which is a very wide phone, and like, so I think it was just like constantly holding my hand wide, and then so hopefully if I just take a lot of Advil. It's been about 2 months.
Given your various occupations, I'm surprised that this is the one that injured you.
Right? No, I was that's what I was thinking. I was like when it happened, I was like, this is like the pussiest, what kind of pussy ass, bitch ass motherfucking injury is this pussy bullshit? Yeah. Like, I could have had way more glamorous or sexy injuries. So I'm doing this new series. So I actually had created my own YouTube channel a while ago. Not a Sovereign Syre one, but when I'd had my show Boss Bitches of History, and then it got canceled. I had
like
this
that
moment.
show.
I know. And I was like so upset, and I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna make my own YouTube channel. I don't need wisecrack. And so I got the domain and everything for Heroin TV at YouTube. So, and then I did nothing with it.
That's a good domain.
So, but I was like, oh shit, I saw that domain and it's fucking a baller domain.
Not only that,
Like, it's
but
like-
now people are more than willing to watch just YouTube videos of folks in cars.
Yes. And so I got the idea, I'd had the Ill Repute podcast, but I got the idea, I wanted to do this when I'd had this running joke going with my best friend about, like, I'm an important adult with an impressive life. And because it was more about this feeling that, like, you never feel like a grown-up and you never feel like you've got your shit together. Well, I mean, most of people I know.
Which is amplified by your current residence.
Yes. And so I kind of got this idea for this podcast, Important Adults with Sovereign Syre.
Yes.
Because I have like such a diverse friend group, and like they're all really awesome people that I always think of as having their shit together, but whenever we talk or hang out, like usually their lives are just as like chaotic as mine.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I was like, what if I want to do...
That's a tagline. Fresh air, but chaos.
Yeah. Smell the despair.
It's my favorite scent.
But so I guess I want to do a show that would sort of like demystify this idea of like people like... So I'm like, it's just going to be me with important adults, and everyone's going to see how like fucking ridiculous we all are.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? So some of them have been, like, I rode around with Xander Corvus, and he like lives in Santa Monica. We were just having serious talks about politics, but
He's a very impressive man.
He is, with an impressive penis.
Well, yeah, that's part of what I mean when I say impressive. It's the
Yeah.
whole package.
But we ended up having this really cool talk about white supremacy and the experience of whiteness and blackness, because a lot of people don't realize that Xander is biracial, that his dad's black, and like, but he's white passing, and so that's kind of created a really unique situation for him in terms of, you know, because he was saying, you know, when they think there's not a black person in the room, you get people's really honest opinions.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Where I grew up in Florida, burning crosses on the hill were a semi-annual thing.
Which is crazy because you don't think of Florida as the South until like you've lived there, and then you're like, oh God.
When you were in Florida, were you in southern Florida or northern?
I was in West Palm Beach.
Oh, okay.
But my family, on my mom's side, my family is from St. Augustine. So,
I'm from Jacksonville, so.
Okay, that was the original site of Fort Caroline.
Ah.
You know I'm a history buff.
Yeah, I actually, I oversaw the, I think it was called the Tides of Time exhibit at the Jacksonville History Museum. That was my first job.
Wow.
My first high school job. Then I was a Subway sandwich artist.
You know, it's like when you get paid for your art, though. You know, I think it's like that early validation is probably what like made it possible.
Well, I don't know if there's much validation. Wait, are we talking about sandwich art or just history?
You look amazing.
Thank
You're
you.
always so fashionable. Were you always like that? Or
No, but I worked in fashion. I realized that in San Francisco, it's really easy to not look like a schlub because like the barrier is here.
Right.
So why not be fantastic?
Yeah. No, I love it too. Like, I put on a full face. I mean, I'm wearing a fucking wig and 3 layers of makeup right now. Like, if you hit the back of me, like, my whole face would just, like, fall
Is that
off.
part of this video too?
I wish it was. I wish I could afford editors because they could just, like, green screen over all this shit. Just, like, I'd love it to be, like, animated because, like, I'm going to put a bunch of shows on the channel. And so this is going to be one of them, Important Adults. And then I'm going to do one with Dana Vespoli where we take old porn intros. Like, old porn. Like, classic.
Yes.
And gay and straight porn. But, like, the intros, the pickup. Mm-hmm. And we're going to overdub them, but, like, improv style. And, like, create new dialogue. But, like, really earnestly. Because, like...
I think the earnesty will be key.
Well, because we both, like, kind of bemoan how fake and artificial and weird and, like, nothing makes sense. And, like, these setups are so ridiculous. I mean, which everyone knows... Right. But the idea was like, well, what if we actually just went and like redubbed it and did it like how it would really go down?
Yeah.
Like what would really happen if...
I mean, you're going to need to do some extensive research into, vintage gay culture. So, hey, double bonus.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing because I really got the idea because I was invited to do stand-up at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade. And they were doing a porn night, and they're like, "Oh, like we know you're a porn star, but we also know that you do stand-up comedy, and like you're a serious comedian, so we wanted to get you into." You've
made enough dumpster comedy sacrifices.
Yeah,
it's time to move up.
Yeah, well, they were like, we want to present the night where like we're making fun. We're not making fun of porn stars. We're making fun of porn, and I was like. So they're like, we want to get someone that's like, like this. Here's because we want the students to see it's like here's a serious comedian, right? But and they're like, so what we're gonna do is you'll do your stand-up set, and then we'll do this segment where they're basically they were doing what I'm talking about, but they're doing it live, basically. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be a nightmare. You know what I mean? The part where they're like playing porn, and what had never fucking occurred to me because of straight erasure of gay culture. It had never occurred to me that they would choose gay porn movies. And like as soon as they like rolled one up and it was a muted setup for a gay movie, and I was like, oh God, I didn't even think of that. Like I was like
I forgot the gays have porn too.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit.
Reminds me of the Hump Film Festival that the Stranger in Seattle puts on, like the amateur porn, and I went one night because it was next to a labor conference, so hey, all my favorite hobbies, leftism and porn.
Right.
And I went with a girlfriend, and I'm like, and she's very sort of buttoned up Southern girl, but is down to explore anything. And we walk in there, and it's just like massive gay meaty men pounding each other. I'm like, this is good cinematography. She's like, I forgot that this would probably be gay people. And I'm like, yes, welcome.
I remember like my one time that I feel like I've had such a weird circuitous kind of introduction to sex work because like I'm one of the only porn people I know that never spent time as a stripper, like ever. The first time I ever stepped foot in a strip club was actually when I was doing stand-up at a strip club for like some event. And the first and only time I ever saw porn in a theater, it was gay porn in a theater in San Francisco in the Castro.
That's like a premium introduction experience.
And so I go in with my friends because we had ditched high school and we like snuck into Pride and all these leather.
That wasn't the Castro Theater you saw it, right?
I'm not I mean, this is like I was 15, so I know we were in San Francisco. It was Pride, and I feel like this was like that's most likely what it was. And that it was a class, so I'm there with all my gay male friends from high school because I think I was the only out female at my school, and so. But my experience was like they used to call me Shalom Harlow. It was like straight out of like when it, like an 80s movie, like makeover movie, where like the nerdy girl makes friends with the gay boys, then they make her over but they
you realized your true powers.
Yeah, no, they gave me a makeover, and after that, everyone at school was always calling me Shalom Harlow. You know what I mean? Like, because I was like, and like when I went into college, we was like, this isn't Paris, it's Fresno State, and I was like, wait, are you trying to offend me? Are you trying to offend me are you trying to insult me by implying that I'm very fashionable? But so we're in there and we're like watching the show, and I didn't know anything about like hooking up and cruising and all this stuff. And this guy, like, rolls by me and is like, God damn. And then he goes to reach out and touch my titty, and he jumped back and he's like, oh my God, she's a real girl. It was like, and it wasn't necessarily that he didn't even like make contact with my titty. I think it's just like maybe my skin was soft. Like there's something where it's like in the moment
he detected the warmth.
Like the moment I was like, oh wait, that's not contour. That's that her jaw is that small.
I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah, but I'll always remember that and treasure it. It's like,
you should. That's authenticity.
So if that man ever finds this video, say hi. It's like, that was me. So if you...
that was a formative moment.
Yeah.
And I think you need to reconnect.
Say hello. Yeah. Like, so gay pride probably, I want to say, decades ago. Yeah. Like in gay time would be like 50 years ago.
That's true. That's how gay math works.
Yeah, it really is.
When the gays have the opportunity to do math, which is rare.
Exactly. It's more like a meth thing.
Although I had a gay math teacher in high school in rural Jacksonville, Florida. And it was at that point where, like, you still called things gay when they weren't cool.
Right.
But we were still woke enough that we didn't really care. And so it was an open secret of this fellow's male roommate. And, we had, it was a small enough school that we had our freshman year and our senior year. And our freshman year, we're like, yeah, male roommate. Know what that's like, I guess. Cool. Makes sense. Senior year, we're like, oh, okay. Well, hey, great pool parties and wonderful snacks. So, love this guy.
So you're here, like, there's a book party tonight. Mm-hmm. So you're launching a book.
Yes.
So
pre-launching it. Really getting everybody thirsty for it.
So do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
Like,
I was I've had a long career in tech startups, and unfortunately, I have yet to discover the ideal get-rich-quick scheme or get-rich-at-any-speed scheme.
Yeah. I would get rich at any speed, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm a patient man. So I ended up as the COO of what turned out to be about a $400 million plausible fraud. And
please explain. And that'd be a great drag name.
Plausible fraud. Oh, I like that.
Right?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Plausible Fraud.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that'd just be a great stripper name, like a burlesque name.
Or like wearing, being like a literal Wolf of Wall Street with like a mask,
I've been
dollar bill top.
Oh, God. I've been wanting to, put together a show, like a live show that would be burlesque and drag and whatever. It's about that time for me to do. I mean,
anti-capitalism is in now, so you might as well make it work.
Well, I used to have a variety show, and I kind of I've gotten to that point where, now I'm missing having that monthly show where it was just kind of, chaos, but beautiful, and it was just a wonderful night in the month, where it was just, lots of drag queens, lots of stand-up comedians, a huge gay audience that was just fucking loved it, the more controversial and,
I do like how we're talking about chaos as we pass the Scientology building.
Oh, shit, bitch!
Yeah.
Oh, I want to get back to your book. I went to a wedding at the Scientology Center. It was Danny Elfman's brother, Richard Elfman, who directed The Forbidden Zone, one of my favorite movies of all time, and one of the best musicals ever.
I'm a fan of any Elfman.
Okay, so it was Richard Elfman wrote this movie, The Forbidden Zone, which was a take on the Orpheus myth, and Danny Elfman. It was the first appearance of Danny Elfman as a musician,
and
he scored the whole thing.
Kid.
It's done in black and white.
Yeah,
and it's and then the female, there's Hervé Villachez is in it, and then the female lead, her name is escaping me right now, but just a fucking powerhouse. She ended up losing her legs to diabetes in old age, and was just she was, and one of her quotes before she died was if it wasn't for gangster rap music, I'd cut my own throat. It's just but anyway, I was friends with an actor, and he invited me to the wedding because he was a guest there, because he was friends with Richard Elfman, and Danny Elfman was there, and but I lost a ring at the Scientology Center, and I was, to this day, I'm someone's in a basement somewhere in that Scientology Center, using that ring.
I was going to say, is this a voodoo doll thing?
Right?
That's how
somewhere.
It works. Using the thetans and the power of Xenu.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be masturbating and I'll be somewhere in the Scientology Center is someone just using the ring, scrying the ring like a crystal ball, and just watching me come.
Or they're using it to be okay, well, now she can only come to this kind of weird shit.
That would explain a lot.
Perhaps even parts of your life.
Yeah. So plausible fraud. So you were part. So what is a plot? Like, what do you mean by plausible fraud?
I mean, the best fraud is indistinguishable from incompetence.
So like the Theranos thing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And quick overview of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Was it
God, I
Theranos?
wish. No, I have a hate crush on Elizabeth Holmes. I want her to speak in that creepy, deep voice to me.
I
try to take my money.
But the thing I noticed about the Elizabeth Holmes thing is like every woman that met her knew she was batshit immediately.
Yes, a good friend of mine she was Miss Florida, trauma surgeon, biotech investor, one of the most badass humans I've ever met. And she like saw the first paragraph of the Theranos pitch deck as like fraud. And I have a background in science. I looked at, I was like, okay, what they're claiming is not possible with our current knowledge of physics.
Right.
And having been in Silicon Valley for a long time, the people don't invest based on logic, reason, and spreadsheets. They invest based on who their rich friends invested in. And it's a well-documented phenomenon.
Yes.
You can't get up. Once you get one offer, you get 20 other offers because you can show it around and be like, see, these people are investing in me.
Right.
So the kind of people who invested had no biotech background. And this is really important in cryptocurrency too. But because she went to Stanford and her dad was well known in the Valley, they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then using that as social proof, she was then able to raise more and more money. But not one of the investors had a biotech background.
Right.
And I have nothing but admiration for this, minus the fact that she probably could have gotten people killed. That's evil.
No, like when I was watching it, I was like, ain't that about a bitch? Everyone else can do this shit. The minute like a pretty woman does it, it's like a disaster.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, the only drawback was like because it was dealing with healthcare, like there were actual like real world implications for
like
people.
if
Like
a woman,
real harm.
If
could
it
have
had been
done,
something like hilarious, like WeWork, where
what is the WeWork thing?
Oh, it's so great. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong. They spend $10 million. The owner owns WeWork.com or WeWork, the trademark, and so the company / CEO give the owner / CEO $10 million for the right to license their own name. That is some alpha shit. So he just takes money from here and puts it in his pocket. Likewise, he owns meaning, has the mortgages on most of the corporate property that WeWork has their offices in. So he takes that money and puts it in his pocket as well.
And what was WeWork like? What was this place?
It's basically office rental, like by the day, week, month, co-working space. They're all over Chicago where I live, and pretty much all over the world. And sure, on paper it's great. Hey, I want a place to like work with my friends and not worry about signing a lease or anything. But the prices are extortionate, and the math just doesn't work out because, if you look at, we're renting the floor of this building for $10,000 a month, and we've got 10 people in here for $10,000 a month, and then we spend $20,000 a month advertising it. Yeah. Not only does the math not work out, if you dig through their SEC filings, the math will never work out.
Right.
Like so many other tech companies, like Uber.
Well, I think that's the thing, like the kind of the mythos around Silicon Valley is that to most people, it's like all of it just sounds like alchemy.
Right.
And how does it's kind of like trying to explain to a grown-up how you make money on YouTube or how
explain to we're grown-ups now.
Yeah, so. I know. But what I mean, like trying to explain to like the generation above us that didn't kind of just grow up with I mean, I think we both kind of had analog. I had analog as a child, but pretty quickly into my life it was digital. I have a memory of people using phones, like landlines. But pretty early on in my childhood, we had internet and computers.
Yeah,
and what I mean?
I ran a BBS when I was 10 or 11 years old, which was people could dial into your computer and message each other and stuff.
Right.
So I'm right on that cusp.
Right. Exactly. And even to me, it's obviously there's a lot of things that are still mysteries, but trying to explain to my mom or something how, what monetization is. Do you know what I mean? Or what traffic is, or what clicks are, or what how an algorithm might affect say, you know what I mean? Like trying to.
My parents are pretty online, but still, like, it's just a vast gulf of experiential difference.
Right.
And bringing it back to cryptocurrency,
Okay.
it's sort of the same thing. I remember 2 years ago, Bitcoin was huge. And like sort of a quick primer on Bitcoin, you can think of it.
I was just going to say, like, what's Bitcoin?
Yeah, so you can think of
Explain
it.
Bitcoin.
There's a bunch of different parts. Maybe for this story, the important part of Bitcoin is that it is anonymous internet money.
Yes.
And there's only 10 million Bitcoins out there or so, and there will only ever be 10 million Bitcoins.
Okay.
So unlike the federal government being able to print $100 million tomorrow to bomb some people in the Middle East, there's no central agency that controls the Bitcoin.
Right.
And you can create a market. I highly recommend reading David Graeber's A History of Debt.
I actually just started that book.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So most of what we learned about economics is a little backwards and nativist, but you can create a market out of anything. A market being, I want to trade these things, whether it's gold or, energy or ones and zeros for those things, whether it's firewood or drugs or anything else. And so the cool thing about Bitcoin is just the way the math works and the programming. It's anonymous, so you can go online, go to something called an exchange like Binance or Bitfinex or one of these others, and just like the stock market, be like, I want to trade, 1 Bitcoin for $1,000. So there you go. It becomes money, just like that.
Right. Yes.
And so what you can do, there's thousands of these internet currencies now called altcoins, and all based on similar mathematical principles that make it impossible to create them out of thin air, or and impossible to fabricate transactions, so you can't send fake money to somebody.
Right.
So it works much like our modern banking system, and you can wire people money and all that. This is where Skycoin, the company I was the COO of, comes into play. They had a really cool vision in that you would have create a new internet, and people would set up antennas or share their bandwidth with each other and have a decentralized internet that didn't have a government controlling it.
Okay.
And you would get paid in Skycoin for sharing bandwidth on this internet. And it's a brilliant vision, because you're like, oh, this is how we can have a censorship-free web and incentivize people to create it by creating this currency that's tied to bandwidth on it.
Right.
Unfortunately, it just didn't actually exist, and it was probably a money laundering front. But enough existed in there. There was there was code in there on GitHub.com, which is sort of a place where people go to share programs and software. There was enough code there, and there were employees and all these things that make you think it's a real company. And much like Theranos, one of the problems is, unless you're super, super technical, like me, and even I was fooled, you can't tell the difference between a cryptocurrency that's just a scam with some fancy words on a webpage or something that actually works. Maybe a couple dozen people in the world have the background to do it.
Right.
So it's really easy to fool people that you're building some amazing new technology that, in fact, is just a fraud.
Right. So your book is about...
My book is about me as the COO of this company I discover is plausibly fraudulent, and the absolutely insane people and insane shit I dealt with as I tried to figure out, as I first tried to run this company legitimately, and then tried to figure out, well, let's audit the books, let's see where the money is, and let's go from there. Part of the nature of Bitcoin is that because it's anonymous and it's a currency, the first thing you're going to do is launder money with it.
Right.
And it's really easy. And part of my book is sort of about the whole boom and fraud cycle of capitalism, where you create a new asset class, whether it's tulips or bonds, pump a bunch of money into it, get your friends to talk all about it to make it more popular, thus increasing the value, and then selling as much as you can when you think the value is maximized.
Right.
And, in bond scams or tulip bulb scams from the 1600s. It used to take months or years to sort of build a bubble, sell it to everybody, and collapse it. But because the internet's so connected, I can create a fake internet currency in hours, get a bubble going in weeks, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, and then collapse it before like a government entity even knows what's going on.
Wow.
And it's all anonymous. So you can't punish people. And
right.
Imagine the kind of people out there who are very interested in large amounts of anonymous, untraceable money, and it's rather horrifying.
Right. Like Epstein.
Yes.
Who like everyone knows he would never managed money, right? Everyone understands that all he did was traffic in sex.
Right.
Like, because I feel like a lot of people, like, they don't get that. Like, oh, he liked to...
No, he wasn't a hobbyist.
It's like, no. Like that was the money.
Yes.
That was like that. He wasn't managing anyone's money.
There was no separate
There was a
revenue
large-scale
source.
sex ring going on.
Yes.
He just picked up the locals because that was his cup of tea. like he knew how to do that. It's not like he just was just like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you traffic sex? Can I?
Yes, can I have some of that?
Yeah, it's like I was like, how do you think he like knew how to find these people? Like he just like walking down the street, Jeffrey Epstein just met like a random pimp on the street and was like, hey, do you know any young girls?
Hey, Iceman Slim. Iceberg Slim, that was his name.
Yeah, Iceberg Slim.
So speaking of LA, the founder of Skycoin fled from Venice Beach to Shanghai because he thought Democrats put fluoride in the water to make him into a transsexual. This is somebody that Alex Jones would think was insane.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Blah, blah, blah. Say that again?
He believed that Democrats put fluoride in the water to make people into transsexuals so that they're more docile and easily exploited.
Oh my God, has he ever met a trans person?
Oh yeah,
docile
one was his roommate.
I'm like, docile is not...
Do not look for consistency in madness.
Yeah, okay. Because like when I think docile, the last thing I think of is like trans women.
Yeah, no kidding.
Have you been on Twitter?
And the thing about this guy truly believed, he had some serious mental illness problems, which is one of the reasons why my book is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Because paranoid people are very easy to exploit if you can feed the right paranoia. So he believed that the Illuminati was a conspiracy theory that is used to confuse the lesser peasants, but really it's a Satanist pedophile conspiracy. He also was really anti-Semitic until he did 23andMe and learned he was Ashkenazi. And then he was like, I'm into club. This is so great.
Oh, God. Like, so he was like most people that thought that the world was run by like 12 Jews sitting in like a weird cave, like in the South Pole.
It's like, have you met Jews? Come on.
Yeah.
But he's not uncommon. And the thing is, in the cryptocurrency world, because there's a lot of wealth and anonymity, all these sort of weird 4chan conspiracy theory shit is pretty mainstream. And you could go into any cryptocurrency chat room on like Telegram and you'll just see insane shit.
Well, I was just going to say, I was like, put a pin in it in my mind, when you were talking about cryptocurrency and the kind of people that are interested in that kind of money and stuff, I was immediately going to bring up, that cryptocurrency is a huge part of that weird bro culture that's emerged online. Joe Rogan isn't the author of it, but I feel like Joe Rogan kind of is like a
he's a gateway drug.
He's like a gateway person. He's like a gateway. He's a gateway into this idea of alpha male culture, and like there's this whole online do you know about this online like the online YouTube community of like alpha, where like I'm gonna teach you how to be alpha, which in ways is like very gay. I'm gonna teach you how to dress, I'm gonna teach you how to do this. I'm like you are describing the typical relationship between a twink and his daddy. Like you're like what you're really describing, what they're actually recreating is generally like sort of the first romantic relationship that most gay men have.
And I think it's going to be like a historical precedent back when you had to teach people how to like socialize and stuff.
Right.
And it's funny because the whole pickup artist community, which grew online and made a lot of money through affiliate marketing, which you probably know about.
Right.
And referral links and all that. those are the first investors in crypto because
Yes.
they're digital natives.
Right.
So it's this weird pickup artist, money laundering, alt-right, crypto fascist gateway drug that built an ecosystem that traditional capitalists now exploit.
Right.
Because it's fast, easy, anonymous money.
Like, why do you think that the overlap, like the cryptocurrency and all this, does it really come down to sort of male entitlement and this feeling in certain segments of the male population that progress is basically something's being taken away from them, and so they're trying to like get it back by like well, we'll make our own currency and we'll make our own fucking rules and we're gonna make our own internet and we're gonna make our own. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I've always tried to, like, I'm like, what is this crossover between like incels, pickup artists, like the alpha male tutors on YouTube, cryptocurrency, because they always fucking are together, right? Like they're always.
I'm not sure if I completely buy the economic argument, but there's an aspect, and I'm like really fucking far to the left. I used to work in politics. Ironic because still trying to get rich quick.
Right.
But there's an
because
economic
Mercedes
argument.
for everybody.
Right.
It's not no Mercedes, it's Mercedes for everyone.
Yeah, fully automated luxury gay space communism. That's what I want.
Yep.
And I think there is an aspect, it's like a combination of white male supremacy and lack of economic opportunity where they feel like, I mean, their lives are really fucking shitty, like objectively. There are a lot of these crypto people, well, sort of the first wave were your basement dwelling nerds without a lot of opportunities in life due to various socioeconomic factors, like lower middle class kids. And that these people, they understand how to sell things online, how to get traffic, how to get eyeballs, how to create online communities. And that's exactly what you need to get a critical mass of people to make a currency worth something. You need a lot of people to believe in it. And because it's anonymous and on the internet, it's a natural crossover for these people who live online because they don't have anywhere else to go.
Right. I was just listening to the Mark Maron interview with, I forget the guy's name, but he was the one that wrote the article that blew up about 4chan and otaku culture and the rise to Trump. I feel bad that his name is escaping me. I'll like put it in a link somewhere. But I want to pick up his book. I just haven't had a chance yet. But he was kind of, he went on WTF with Maron. And like he kind of gave like a little primer on like, okay, here's like a brief history of 4chan, and what was the predecessor to that one? Was like
well, there was 2chan, which was the Japanese one,
but there was one before that was like an American one, or maybe they kind of came
something awful.
Yes, something awful. Because I remember, because my older brother is like, my older brother's like too awesome to have fallen prey to that kind of alpha male bullshit. Like my brother wears like crop tops and goes to Burning Man and poses in Barbie doll boxes, even though he's like fucking trips, like he's like always walking from pussy to like more pussy.
Right.
But like, a
noble journey.
And but at the same time he works in video game animation. He and the early part of his life, before, he was kind of an ugly duckling. So, he was always gorgeous. Right. But it's like he didn't have the social graces that he needed until much later in life. So he was probably like in his 20s, which is, and by later in life, I mean like late for like learning basic social cues. You know what I mean? I'm sure he's a little bit on the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean,
but he
I was
figured
the
it out.
same way.
But he figured it out, right? And so for that reason, I guess he didn't fall into the trap. But he would show me all kinds of shit when I was younger. Yeah. Like, I remember Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Oh, good old ED, yeah.
But I just remember the first time that I saw it, right? Because I was a pretty girl. I was very popular, very smart, won lots of awards. I was like Miss Junior Hawaii Tropics when I was 12 years old. Like, in a lot, like we were poor and like there were lots of problems. But in terms of socially, I was always just, me.
Yes.
And so I didn't dwell in weird online spaces. I used the internet very differently. I used the internet to download guitar tabs and learn how to play Stevie Nicks songs. And
my first guitar tab was Iron Man.
Right. See, it's like I think mine was Crazy on You by
That's a hard intro.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm so good at it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I can still, like...
I want to see this sometime.
So I was really shocked when I was seeing things that had, like, the N-word and, like, faggots and, like, almost raped, the category almost raped, which I actually still quite enjoy. That kind of, because it is...
For a certain segment of the Lorna's white girls, it is hilarious.
It is fucking true.
A black man looked at me, I was almost raped.
Yeah. It was shocking to me. I was like, Joshua, how do you look at this stuff? And he's like, oh, it's so funny. And I was like, maybe to you, but like, this is kind of scary because like other people look at this, like, I don't think they're laughing the way you're laughing. Like, I don't think they're laughing in the same way.
So I have a lot of friends we were fans of a heavy metal video game cover band called the Neskimos, and they're fucking great. And I still own a message board that we all hung out at. And it started out, at the same age, we were like ironically offensive.
Right.
But like general, we're all in northern Florida, somewhere between lower and upper middle class. But we were lucky in that we like all hung out together, and we were generally well socialized, although definitely everybody was on the spectrum,
Right.
Kind of slightly awkward nerd kids, but generally a good heart. A lot of 3 or 4 of them came out as trans years later.
Right.
But it's not that many degrees between I'm being like ironically racist as a teen because it's funny and we're kind of making fun of the actual racist to
Right.
Oh, we're just actual racist now.
Yeah.
Going back to our central plot on cryptocurrency
Yes.
and mileage on a hoe, my very first day of work, I was given a $50,000 prostitute budget and a plane ticket to Vegas, and I was told, get these guys at this large exchange laid because we've bribed them $7.5 million, and they haven't listed our coin yet. And I was like, at that moment, this is the job I was made for.
Yes. Oh my God. I've been waiting for those instructions.
I love sketchy shit. And being a big supporter of sex workers, because a lot of my friends have
I'm offended you
in
didn't
the
hire
industry.
me. I could have released the money. I don't know when this happened, but I could have.
You weren't in Vegas. Although in retrospect, I should have hired you to be like the alpha bitch who would then go procure what we need. So next time I do
we're
something
like totally
sketchy.
talking about illegal activities on that. I'm like,
so I went to Vegas, and but I don't actually know how to get hookers, and Craigslist was gone. So my head of marketing, fantastic, brilliant firebrand woman who doesn't want her name actually in this story. I was like, well, you're a girl, so I bet women will feel safer talking to you. So could you go troll for hookers online and call them? And she made a bunch of calls, and people kept hanging up because they're like, this is weird. Why is a woman calling?
Right.
Eventually, 9 girls show up that night. And these girls show up, and I'm working my networks, and I realized that not only did the people we were supposed to get laid were never at this conference in Vegas, but we never even bribed them $7.5 million. It was just a paranoid delusion. So what?
Wait. So like they didn't exist?
Yeah, they just didn't exist. So what would you do with?
So wait, so you get the girls.
Mm-hmm.
You have the party and everything, and then you just.
Well, what would you do with 2 spare hours and 9 hookers?
Well, I mean, yes. But like, so you were just sitting there and you're like, I guess these guys aren't showing up?
Right.
And then how did you figure out that they didn't exist?
I texted, this is my first day of work, so I hadn't met everybody. So I texted the
Silicon
CTO.
Valley. Like, people think Hollywood's all fucked up. Like.
Yeah, so I texted the CTO and I'm like, hey, I don't know who's in charge of finances, but I'm super cool with bribes, and I can tell you all about bribing culture in different countries. I'm super cool with bribes, but I was like, $7.5 million. So who'd you give that to? Where'd it go? And is this a make friends situation or a hire Blackwater situation? He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And why are you in Vegas with $50,000 of cash? So yeah, it turns out that never happened.
So he had a psychotic break, and then
he was at a perpetual psychotic break because he had
so
all these narratives.
He was the one asking why, or someone else at the office was like, why?
Yeah, someone else at the office, one of the other executives was like, why would you ever think that we would bribe this company $7.5 million? I'm like, because the CEO told me we did, and I believe him, because this is a sketchy as fuck industry, and I'm not surprised by anything.
Right. And so, did they hold that against you? Or were they like, are you stupid? Or were they like, did they go like, oh yeah, he's crazy?
Care. Yeah, they're like, oh, he's crazy, cost of business, but the money prints itself anyway, so we don't care.
Oh, God.
So, of course, given 9 hookers and 2 hours, I did what any red-blooded American male would did and forced them to play Cards Against Humanity with me.
Oh, God. Man, being forced to play parlor games is like that would be actually pretty awesome. Because did you go like, oh, so here's what we thought happened, and then here's what happened?
Yeah, and I'm like, listen, at the beginning of the night, I'm like, girls, we're here to entertain some clients. I'm paying up front, so you don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with. But by the end of the night, I learned that things they were not comfortable with included learning card games, reading, and telling jokes. So that's my first day of work, and my last day of work was when shortly after the CEO faked his own kidnapping.
Oh God! Okay, so tell me this story.
So the end of Skycoin came about shortly. So when you're listed on an exchange, you're like sort of the hot popular kid, and the value of your coin increases because it's seen as a sign of legitimacy.
Right.
So the value of Skycoin went, when I was joined, I think it was $10 per coin. It went up to $60 per coin the day it was listed on Binance, one of the top exchanges. And then it came out, and investigating this is what got me fired, that the executives and a bunch of people in Israel and Russia with no last names were manipulating the price of currency in what we call pump and dump scam, where you get everybody to publish news articles and to tweet about your currency to make it popular, and then you sell it all, which is just how we've done capitalism for 400 years. So to distract from this and to sort of stop the investigation I had started, he faked his own kidnapping by inviting the executive team over to his house in Shanghai for an executive meeting, and then getting his fiancée and several of his personal attaché to claim that the Chinese executive team held him hostage and tried to kidnap him. And then he reported this to the Chinese police. The Chinese police at first laughed him out of the room because they're like, dude, you're just some weird American. Like, we're not going to bother with this shit. But the scandal was big enough to distract from the pump and dump scam that had just broken. And then he was laughed out of Chinese court, and sort of the executive team, I was gone at that point, continued to audit the finances. So he fussed to the U.S. Embassy that his legitimate concerns as an American businessman were not being addressed because he was American, and these Chinese people, these horrible Chinese people, tried to get him kidnapped. Right. So there was, long story short, there was a trial of the entire Chinese team, and they were put in white-collar prison for a year. A proper Chinese trial, no witnesses or anything, just a few brief statements. And that was that. So had I remained in Shanghai, I would have been in prison for a year.
Jesus.
Right. I learned of this because one of my close friends, who was like my COO equivalent over there, gave me a call one day. I'm like, bro, haven't heard from you in a year. Where you been? Prison? The answer was yes.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, that's how it ends. But this fraud and pump and dump scam. Right. It's not unique to cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
So the upside of cryptocurrency is that it's based on this technology called the blockchain, which is like a big spreadsheet or auditing book that you can't fake transactions in and is publicly available. So
wait, say that again, because
it's a big
blockchain is okay.
A blockchain is a public ledger that anybody can download and look at every transaction that's ever happened in it. So imagine if you were running like a campsite and you had 100% transparency in all the money going in and all the money going out, so the girls knew if they were getting ripped off or not.
Right.
You can do that with a cryptocurrency. Make porn coin or something, and your girls get tipped in porn coin, and they can just open up a website and be like, oh yeah, all this money came in and then all this money went out, And because of the mathematics behind it that you don't have to understand, but you can trust because it powers all modern computing, you know that like there's been no faked transactions and nobody's stealing the money. It's a revolutionary technology to be able to move currency around without anybody in the middle. But because few people kind of understand it, you're relying on people to be good actors. And the incentive when there's a lot of anonymous money around to just steal it is really high.
Yeah. But is Bitcoin gonna, like, is the bubble gonna burst on that, or?
I mean, the bubble booms and bursts. It's the technology is not going away. Maybe it'll be Bitcoin, maybe it'll be Litecoin, one of the other 1,000 Litecoins. Bitcoin is like any other asset class. It can be manipulated. Everybody should have a little, as just like a hedge. I can't predict the future of it, but I do believe the technology will be here. Will Bitcoin replace the US dollar? No, because the United States dollar is powerful, because if you don't accept it, we'll just bomb you.
Right.
And nothing can really, it's really hard to make something as universal as the US dollar is without guns backing it up.
Right.
But that being said, at its peak, the Bitcoin market, like the entire cryptocurrency market, I think was like 2 or 3 trillion maybe. So it's not going anywhere. And, there's a lot of potential for abuse, but also in general, anything that sort of lets people take control over currency and, move it away from bad actors and evil, there's some good to that.
Do you think the government's going to try to go and step in and regulate it somehow?
They already have. There's this thing called an ICO, which is just like an IPO. Hey, I've got a new currency, everybody come buy it. And now you have to register those with the SEC if you're a United States company. And if you sell large quantities of cryptocurrency, you have to take people's ID. It's called like KYC, know your customer. So There is some regulation. And I think that is a good thing. But of course, it's totally anonymous, so some just rando dude could be like, hey, I've got a new currency. I'm not telling you where I am, but here it is on the internet, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. All right. Well, I feel like that's a good place to end. We've been talking for like an hour.
Yes.
So we'll end there. We're going to go get ramen.
Yeah.
But first, I'm taking to my house so I can get my jacket.
Yeah. I'm Luscious Pear on all social media.
Oh, yes,
Follow
please.
me. Buy my book. It should be out next summer when editing ends. Who the fuck knows when that ends.
And I'll put your links, like,
Heart.
yes. All right.